All right, welcome into the SGPN Fantasy Football Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, presented to you by WynnBET. WynnBET is now live in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Louisiana, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Tennessee, and Virginia. Boost the same-game parlays to live in-game odds. WynnBET has what you need to win. If you bet $100, you're going to get $100 at WynnBET.com or download the WynnBET app and start winning today. State restrictions apply. All right, we are drafting from each position, doing a 12-team Superflex rookie mock draft with 4 rounds using our friends over at Sleeper. Got my trusty co-host here. Yeah, got my trusty co-host here, Brad. And make sure you check out the other episodes. And, of course, hit that like button, subscribe, and send us all your fantasy football questions. So we're going to get straight into the draft, and that is probably a requirement of me to start the draft. And so we will see what they gave me the 12th pick. I'm not going to make my selection. Brad's going to make his. We'll see what the latest ADP shows us. So this is a 12-team Superflex draft. Bijan Robinson at 1, CJ Stroud at 2, Bryce Young at the 3 spot, Anthony Richardson at 4, JSN at 5. We have Jahmyr Gibbs at 6. Then we have Jordan Addison at 7, Will Levis at 8. So, Brad, if you're on the clock right here, what are you thinking about doing?
Yeah, I mean, this is the pretty standard top 8. The difference is the ADP shifted around on us a little bit, right? So had we been talking some of these earlier picks, we might be changing course a little bit because now you see Anthony Richardson at 104 going way earlier than what we saw before. Then JSN, Jahmyr Gibbs has dropped a couple picks in this draft. Then we see Jordan Addison coming off at number 2. So you really have your option. Who do you like more? Your your wide receiver 3 or your running back 3. To me, Zach Charbonnet is the clear pick here over any of these other. There's a little bit of a tier break here for me after Zach Charbonnet. So that would be my pick at the 109.
Yeah, and when you look at it, you're in your actual leagues, there's going to be such a rush for running backs like there normally is. And with all of these quarterbacks likely getting first-round draft capital, likely getting top 10 draft capital, it's going to be hard to see – it's really going to be hard to see them go much, much earlier than this. Like, best case scenario for, like, Charbonnet is, like, 6 or 7. I mean, this is probably the sweet spot for him. I don't know if you saw Bucky Brooks' latest mock draft, but Bucky Brooks' latest mock draft was very interesting. And so I thought it was interesting. My guy, Hendon Hooker, was closing the gap on Will Levis, and Daniel Jeremiah had him at 23 with Will Levis at 19. Bucky Brooks didn't even put Will Levis in his first round.
I feel like he's just that's that clickbait. Like, let's get as many clicks as I can by saying mock draft 3.0, Will Levis falls. Whatever.
I mean, I don't know, man. It was very interesting because, I mean, I'm not here to hate on Will Levis, but I definitely thought that was a pretty bold thing to have him outside of the entire first round. But, we'll see. Crazy things have happened in the draft. So let's get to our pick and let's talk strategy first. If you're at the 109, there is some trade back situations that you can do. If you like, let's say you like the receivers here, sometimes trading back from the 109 to the 201, letting someone take who they get, and you're still giving up a first round pick. And so you're going to get a decent return, and someone might overpay a little bit, and you might get lucky with who ends up falling to you. But in this situation, whether it's my pick of Zay Flowers or Zach Charbonnet, I would probably stick and pick in this situation unless I got a really good offer, because I think there's a tier drop behind both those guys. We took Charbonnet in the last draft. We can give it to him again. We'll take Mr. Charbonnet.
No, that's fine. We can go Zay if you want to go Zay. The one thing I do want to add to that around the strategy perspective is everybody should have kind of their own rankings, right? Hey, here's what, Dave's rankings are, but you know what? I'm going to start there and I'm going to move some guys around based on what I like, right? I would highly recommend that for everybody. Don't just take my rankings or Dave's rankings or Bruni's or whoever's and use those as gospel. What I would say, I know some folks who have, let's say, for instance, I know a couple guys who have Sean Tucker as their 3rd running back on their ranking, right? do not take Sean Tucker here, right? Even though theoretically speaking, your rankings may say to take him here, make sure you pay attention to ADP and use that to your advantage, right? If you think, hey, ADP shows Sean Tucker going 205, I'm not saying to trade back to the 205 and risk not getting him, but don't take him at 109. Trade to the 201. Go reach that 201 owner and see if they want to move up and take 201 plus and still go get your guy whom you believe to be the RB3, and you're adding assets. So use that ADP to your benefit here. Anytime you're doing any kind of draft like that.
And it's exactly what I was going to say on why not taking Zay Flowers here, because I want to see where he goes. We were doing mock drafts last week, and Zay Flowers was going
end of the second. He was going.
Well, yeah, he was going mid-second. It was like 2.6, 2.7, and it was like, oh, okay. Well, now it's corrected itself. 111. The people have heard me. It's definitely that is much better to where I like him. And I understand some people will have Quentin Johnston higher, and some people might have taken Quentin Johnston at that 109 spot. So first round recap. 101 was Bijan Robinson. They had CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson, JSN, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jordan Addison, Will Levis, Zach Charbonnet, Quentin Johnston, Zay Flowers, and then Josh Downs.
Yep.
Round 2, Michael Mayer. Then we had Devon A-Chain. Then we had Jalen Hyatt, Zach Evans, Tank Bigsby, Hendon Hooker at the 206. It's a little bit better than what we've seen before. If he gets first-round draft capital, that'll shoot right up. And then you have, Sean Tucker, who we talked about after Kincaid. So it was Mayer at the 1, A-Chain at 2, Hyatt at 3, Evans at 4, Bigsby at 5, Hooker at 6, Kincaid at 7, Tucker at 8. And then who are we looking at here, sir?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because we're starting to see that gap close on Kincaid and Mayer as well, right? We saw Mayer at the 111, 112 in those drafts that we did when we did 101 through 108. And we saw Kincaid at the 211, and now we're seeing Michael Mayer start at the beginning of the second. We see Kincaid shifting in, right? So now by draft time, if Kincaid ends up going ahead of Mayer, you likely see them swap spots a little bit, right? So this is where it always gets interesting doing all these mock drafts early on and seeing how things are shifting, because it's telling you what the industry is looking at and what the consensus is right now. But here, there's one guy in particular that I think has huge value and major upside. When I'm in the back end of the second, I'm going to start to look at that upside. And that upside for Kayshon Boutte is pretty high for me. He's going to be the highest ranked player on my board at this point right now, out of the guys left over. So I'm looking at Kayshon for sure, especially with the fact that we were able to get a solid running back in the first round. Now I want to start to look at those wide receiver cores that find themselves in some opportunity and have some upside.
Yeah, it'd be between him and Tillman if we were going to go with receiver. Kendre Miller, I believe I have a little bit higher, but that's where I would go. And we already got the running back. Let's go with the receiver. Let's take Boutte off the board.
Well, so let's talk about that, right? Because that's a little bit different depending on what your situation is. So what types of situations would you be looking at taking Kendre Miller over Kayshon Boutte or Cedric Miller? And then what types of situations would you be looking at them, even though Kendre is the higher guy on your board?
Well, I think this is a great spot to trade back because I like those guys. I don't love them. And so I'd be fine if somebody wants to trade up and give me a future. I'm the guy that has like 14 third-round picks because people just, all right, just throw me a third and we'll do it. Because I could, I don't care about going to 212 and taking any one of the guys we just talked about.
Yep.
And so I'm big on trading back, collecting picks. I'm a big Seahawks draft kind of a guy. And that's what I would do. But, again, with the running backs, if you're in a rebuild situation, you think, oh, I'm going to rebuild. I'm going to get a receiver, a long-term play. Well, if you're in a rebuild, it's a 2 or 3 year rebuild, go grab the best running back and just flip them because you can trade running backs so quickly. And that's my thought here. But as far as needs, if you need running backs, then go running back. If you need a receiver here or you don't have go with the best player available if you don't have a choice. Yeah. And then I wouldn't think about any of the quarterbacks or tight ends here. It's strictly those 4 guys we talked about.
All right. I made 109. Who's 209?
209 will be Keishon Butte.
Okay. So Kendre Miller's in Tyjae Spears. Your auto pick Chase Brown. I like that at the back end of the second. That's nice.
Yep, and these are not my picks here, Downs and Chase Brown. I did like the Brown pick. So to recap, round 2, we had Mayer, A-Chain, Hyatt, Evans, Bigsby, Hooker, Kincaid, Tucker, Butte, Miller, Tyjae Spears at 211, and Chase Brown 212. Then round 3 was Cedric Tillman, Marvin Mims, Kenny McIntosh, Darnell Washington, Luke Musgrave, Rashee Rice, Rashawn Johnson. We have Tyler Scott at 308. And then 309. So I think we both know who we want here. It's Izzy Anaconda is still on the board. He is. I just don't understand why he's still going at the end of the third round. So we haven't reached enough people at this point to move the needle on him. We did it for Flowers. It's not happened yet for Izzy. And
we'll get there. That short might do it for us. Maybe my short will get it.
Maybe this short will get it. I think when he gets drafted in the third round or second round, it's gonna do it.
Yeah.
He is a lightning fast running back, and if he were to go to a system like if he were to go to the Dolphins with that scheme, like he's a one cut runner. He's not necessarily going to be somebody that dances around and does the things that Bijan Robinson does. Yep. But you get him in an outside zone scheme, and he is able to kind of pick and choose where he goes. Once he puts his foot in the ground, he's gone. And he's got elite track speed. He was a great sprinter in New York. And when it comes down to pass catching, he can do that too. And on top of it, he's got great size. Like this guy is a little bit bigger than Travis Etienne.
Yep.
And so
he weighed in 217, I think, yesterday. Is what it was.
Yep. He's a little bigger than Etienne. He's got a big kind of broad shoulders, but he's got a good build to him. So
he's definitely not that power back though. Like even though he weighed in at 217, he's a little bit bigger. The guy's like, that's not his style of running.
No,
he's necessarily look at the weight just because of that. But
yeah, he's not someone that's going to be dropping the shoulder on people. And there's not many of those backs in here. And it's not what we're looking for fantasy football anyways.
Yeah, right.
But he's got the track kind of a little bit smaller lower half.
Yep.
So let's
this is a little bit different than what we've seen last week when we were doing 101 through 108. We're seeing some names that we did not see really even coming off the board. If we look at Jaden Reed, didn't really see a lot of him coming off. Evan Hull, we didn't really see a lot of him coming off. And you see them at the top of this ADP. So with things going the way that they are, some of the hype that you hear around the NFL, are you interested in taking any of those guys at this spot? Or, because I think we're in agreement. Anaconda is not going to be available here, right, in the grand scheme.
I mean, Jaden Reed, we've talked. Jaden Reed would be that would be my next guy on the board. I think McBride gets consideration here. But Jaden Reed, I do think he's someone that offers the upside. He's got big playability on top of being just a good all-around receiver. He's not, obviously his third round, he has some things he needs to work on. But I do like him.
Because that's a guy we didn't really talk about. We haven't really talked a whole lot about. I know he came up in our sleeper show with John Lobb. If you didn't listen to that, make sure you go check that out at SGPN Fantasy on YouTube or our Spotify channel, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts, SGPN Fantasy. It's a great show, and we had quite a few sleepers to talk about. So let's get to our last guy in this round.
Yeah, and back to Reed, he definitely is someone that a lot of Devy folks are big fans. And last year was kind of a down year for him. I think we all can agree it was a down year for the Michigan State offense. Yep. And so he's someone that if you just go back and look at the 2021 tape, or you're like, yeah, this guy's pretty good. In 2022, you didn't get to see it as much because the offense wasn't explosive. They weren't making big plays. They weren't on the field that much. But people are sleeping a little bit on him. So Tanner McKee, 310, Stetson Bennett, 311, Max Declan, 312. I would be not interested at all in making any of those picks. Dorian Thompson-Robinson. There we go. That's my guy. I would take him in the 4th round. I don't know if I'd take him in the 3rd round with what's left on the board. You have Tucker Kraft, 402, Will Mallory, 403, Rakim Jarrett, 404, Jaron Hall, 405, Braden Willis at 406, Malik Cunningham, 407. We got Laporta at 408. That seems like real deep. And then our pick right here. So Izzy is still on the board.
Yeah. When we get done with it, I'm screenshotting this. I'm gonna make a short. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, Sam Laporta in the 4th round is crazy. Israel Abadaconda in the 4th round is crazy. Like, please don't fix it, because that means we're gonna get them at great value. But
yeah. Eric Gray, that would have been if I would have even scrolled down a little bit, Eric Gray would have been my pick at 309. So I mean, Izzy, Eric Gray, those guys I would have had. I have over Jaden Reed. And I do think there's some value here in the 3rd round. I will say this. Every year, the talent pool shrinks after the draft. And so you do your mock drafts. You're like, man, there's 30 guys I love. And then you could look at the landing spots and the draft capital, and you're like, there's like 18 guys that I love. And so it'll shrink. So don't think that you're going to find all these guys. And it'll correct itself, And I don't like doing like the rookie draft on draft weekend. I think, especially if you're looking to like use ADP as a tool, it's not going to have enough time to catch up. But if you do your draft like the weekend after the NFL draft, you should see enough. We're going to do shows and stuff like that too to show off what like the ADP should be or what it is. This is just, like I said, there's a lot of these guys that I think are not going to be available. Like A.T. Perry is one of my guys. Then you have Izzy. Dwayne McBride will not be available. Eric Gray, I don't think will be available. And so, there's a guy that I talked about earlier that I want to throw on the board, and that's Deneric Prince. He's not been drafted yet, so you have to look him up. I think he's 210 on the list, or actually he's lower than that. Deneric Prince from Tulsa. If you're looking for this year's Isaiah Pacheco, this guy he's more of a straight line runner. He has good size, 6 foot, 219 pounds. He had the highest weight adjusted 40 out of the running back class. And he's someone that people are starting to talk about. It's whispers. People aren't getting really super loud about it yet, but you got to look at that. And last year, that's something that Pacheco stood out. Ken Walker stood out. And they were in the rank, when Pacheco was in the ranks with Ken Walker and Breece Hall, I was like, I got to put that note in my head. And when I was talking to Angelo, I definitely was like, I remember this guy. And then you see him do it. Like, not everyone's going to be Pacheco, but again, like a guy that nobody's talking about, probably going to get day 3 draft capital. He's got some serious traits.
I like it. All right. Let's
just take Izzy off the board. Someone has to do it.
Yeah, right. Payne Durham, Davis Allen, and Mr. Irrelevant.
All right. Well, hey, this is a little bit longer than we expected. We're going to go to do the 110 for you guys. Again, please like, subscribe, and turn the notifications on. And then check out our other episodes. We're going to be doing, finishing up our top 12. We've already got 1 through 8 done. So if you're drafting from the 1 spot or the 6th spot, go check those episodes out. And then we got one more thing to offer everybody before we get out of here.
Yeah. All right. So we talk about WinBet being our jam, but guess what? Everybody's starting to do those early best ball drafts. And hey, SGP's draft day is coming up, and we're going to be using Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy continues their March Madness college pick'em, and it is a great way to get in on the action. Plus, Underdog Fantasy has all your favorite college basketball player props and great NBA and NHL daily games. So head over to UnderdogFantasy.com. Use promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit bonus of up to $100. Again, that's UnderdogFantasy.com promo code SGPN.
All right. Thank you, guys. As always, good luck this season.